And welcome back. It's me and Chris this time from DXV. After a short video of me, the token Welshman, and Gatland's Welsh team picks, we launched straight into the England team that's been announced. And this time, all the emphasis is on Chris. Chris, you pushed out a DXV England team that you thought might be it. How close were you with that?
Well, I didn't think it might be it. I tried to avoid that because I think when people push out teams, a lot of people push out teams. They try and almost predict what's going to be there, which actually with Borthwick is rather boring because it's fairly consistent. So, what I tried to do was push out what I thought should be the team. If it was me picking, who would I pick?
And to give the internet trolls something to bite after.
But I got reasonably close. I got 29 out of 36, so about a 80% hit rate, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, some surprises in there. Some I don't think are surprising. Fairly steady team, to be honest with you.
It is Borthwick's like makeup though, right? He has sort of his team, his players he likes. He's not
evolution, not revolution.
He didn't do a sort of Gatland last year and threw an absolute sort of grenade into the squad.
But it's interesting. I mean, we're going slightly off topic, so I'll give you my thoughts on the squad in a minute. But I actually think so. Borthwick, if you look through social media, gets a bit of a bad rap, or people call him like Borwick and stuff, and you get like Andy Good and a few saying he doesn't like change things up. Actually, if you look at the number of people he's capped, like he's capped pretty much an entire new squad, right? So just in this squad here, people who weren't in last year's World Cup, right? So you've got, sorry, not last year, the year before's World Cup now. Finn Baxter, Alex Coles, Chandler Cunningham South. You've got Ben Kerr. Theo Dan was at the World Cup, but he was a new captain under Borthwick. Then you go down Joe Hayes, he's quite new. Ted Hill, Asher Opoku Forjor, Tom Willis, Oscar Beard, Fraser Dingwall, Tommy Freeman he brought back into the fold after he had a brief cameo in Australia. Like, there's plenty in there.
Yeah, and I looked at caps because I think actually before we launch into squads, obviously quite the big news, just because it comes along with caps and some of the comments Steve Borthwick made. Captaincy. Did you see sort of with the likes of sort of Jamie George still in there? Did you see it go into a toe, Jay?
I didn't think he. I did. I wouldn't have said he was going to change the captaincy, and I wouldn't have put it as a priority, if I'm honest. So I have two thoughts on it. Well, a few, but two main ones. One, I think it's disappointed for Jamie, but excited for Maro. I think they both are good candidates, right? Like if you're looking at like, if you turn around and say like I'm sticking with Jamie, everyone would have been like, yep. But if he's given it to Maro, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like he's also 80-something cap international.
Yeah.
Has been vice captain, has captained in the absence of Jamie. Like, it's not like he's just giving it to some kid who's got 3 caps and is like, have a crack, kid, and see how you get on. So happy for him. My other thought, my worry about it, is one of Maro's great strengths is that he plays really on the edge, right? Like, he walks that tightrope and sometimes trips over the edge of it, and you don't. Can he do that as captain? Have you almost put a restraint on him?
Yeah.
You know, you see him like screaming at the front of lineouts, really getting into niggly places and not. Yeah. You know, he pushes the laws as far as they can go. And I'm not sure he'll be able to do that as a captain.
I'd sort of agree. I think he has got better in recent years. I think when he first came on the scene, he was very much a sort of on the line player. He'd win it for you, or he'd sort of mess it up. I think he has got better, but I do agree, sort of that captaincy role, sort of akin to like any other sort of niggling bit. And you look at Courtney Lawes, like quit international and had one of his best Premiership seasons going, and suddenly it was sort of because he didn't have to worry about the international and he focused on that and smashed it. I brought it up because of the caps bit, and there's a comment that I found online, and it was sort of Borthwick comment where he said sort of with 88 England caps, Marrow has been a central figure for the squad many years, bringing a vast amount of experience both on and off the field. And I was kind of like, it's a weird one when you're taking it off Jamie George, who's got more caps, to like make the comment around him. So I think Jamie George was what, close to 100 caps.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't even actually know.
Close to
Jamie.
I just thought it was a weird
97,
weird it was a weird comment to make around the sort of captaincy. That if you were talking, there's lots of things to sort of discuss Marrow in the picture about. And also, I guess a question off that is that a sort of indication maybe of sort of Jamie George maybe not getting sort of, not, I wouldn't say not starting, but sort of maybe not getting the amount of game time.
The others closing the gap a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. You can read as much into it as you want, if I'm honest. Like, I think it's actually Jamie probably is still the starting hooker.
Yeah.
Just because he's a very, like, so you look through his stats, it's really interesting. So, like, all the flashy attacking stuff, he doesn't top anymore. Like, back in his heyday, he was like, he almost like redefined what being a hooker was. Like, he was quick, nimble. He, like, so despite looking really lovely and cuddly, he was quite abrasive, like all that stuff. And then but now he's a much steadier player. He doesn't, and like, this is one of the things I find interesting. Like, when I'm going through the stats, one of the things you'll notice is with the internationals, particularly in the England squad, the ones who tend to go on and get lots of caps are the ones who, not necessarily who top the stats, but the ones who make less errors.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, can I rely on you?
Yeah. That
you're not going to give away 2 penalties a game. That you're not going to drop the ball 3 times a game. That you're not going to give up possession consistently. And Jamie's really, really good at that. He has a really low error count. But then does everything you need him to do, right? So, like, he does his job very effectively. He's quite good at the line out. He's had a few hiccups recently, but he's quite good at the line out. Good leader. I don't see a massive problem. I think he's lost a little bit of punch in the carry, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, he's still listed. It's him and Genge are listed as the vice captains.
Oh yeah, and that's like, if you're looking at a leadership group, that's not a bad leadership group, right? Like, on the blog, I put up Jamie's credentials, and I'm like, Jamie has 97 England caps, England captain, 3 times Lions tourist. I think it's like 6 premierships, 3 Champions Cups, 3 Six Nations. One of them's a Grand Slam. He's got a World Cup silver medal and a World Cup bronze medal, right? Like, he's no. Yeah, you got that as like a vice captain. You're like, yeah, okay,
it's not horrific. Yeah,
like, that makes sense.
And that's really good, because I was looking at sort of caps, and it's just because I think it was on the actual sort of Six Nations site when I was looking through an England squad and just added all the caps next to them. And what I did notice is actually there's only a few, but what you do end up with is actually you've got I'd say quite a big gap. You've got quite a lot of people, even just a forward, sort of Baxter on 6 caps, Coles on 7 caps, Ben Curry on 6 caps. So you've got a bunch of people, Joe Hayes, Ted Hill, like Bev and Rod, that are really at the start, like 0 to sort of 10, 0 to 15 caps in that sort of bracket. And then you have got still, again, the
guys pushing
sort of Jamie George 90, the people at 80 sort of caps, and sort of even Ellis Genge is up at about 60, 70. But it's like that sort of middle ground of sort of 20, 30 caps. I don't think there's anybody. It's either you've got well experienced, good players and really, really fresh. And I think it's really interesting, especially when we go back and like look at Wales and some of the conversations we were having. I mean, somebody brought it up online about George Ford, but actually when you've got sort of like, you need like those old heads, and just to be in your training camps, just to be in your just to be sort of in and around the youngsters.
We talked about it before. Like, what do you want when you get to World Cup? Ideally, you want a team full of like 50 cappers, right? Like young enough to where they're still at their like physical prime, but experienced enough to know how to grind out.
Play the game at that level. Been there I've felt this before. I've
won
walked
big
into the
games,
stadium.
lost big games, has like, and that's one of my things. So this will come up later, but like Henry Pollock, I was talking to Ollie about this, and I was like, Henry Pollock is absolutely one of the standout talents, I think, for England coming through in the back row. He is outrageously abrasive in the carry, like has a real turn of pace, like Ben Earl-esque, but with a bit more grit and niggle in there. Like wants to scrap with everyone on the pitch.
Yeah.
Really, what you want from like a
typical young back row.
yeah, like he thinks he's the business.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like he hasn't encountered anything that says he isn't the business yet. Like, and that to me is a problem. Like, I want him to almost have like a bad game. I want him to hit something where like he doesn't know how to overcome. Like, oh,
Yeah. Like, yeah, you're running into a brick wall, and
and it's a brick
everything
wall.
you try isn't working, and I need to see you in a bad place.
Yeah, like, and then what do you do? Because like that's what's going to happen at test level, right? You're going to play against France or South Africa, and you're going to try and get through Peter Steph Toy, and he's going to
It's not
like
going to go
knock
your
you
way.
into next week. Yeah, and you need to get back up and go again. Like, and then, and I think like you need a little bit of that. I think, but you say that the cap levels are low, and you've got a couple in there. So you've got the likes of like Ollie Lawrence at 31, Alex Mitchell at 18. They're pushing that kind of 20, 30.
Yeah, the backs.
But you look at that long term, and you start getting in like, where does that leave you in 2027? Got a couple of big Centurions in there. You've got like the Maro Itojes, the Ellis Genges, the Jamie Georges, like maybe the Henry Slades, etc., who've kind of racked up big amounts of experience. And then you've got a chasing pack sitting around between 40 and 50 caps. And I think that's actually a pretty decent place to be.
And it does come down to, I think, and we've mentioned sort of England's depth before. And I mean, and when it is sort of tight, and I'm sure later we'll get onto the sort of omissions from there that no doubt people online will be absolutely sort of hammering about. But looking through that England team, it's interesting that you mentioned Henry Slade. So obviously player, central contract. I don't think he was in the team that you picked, Chris, was he?
He was, but he wasn't in my starting team, no, or my bench. He was in my 23.
Yeah,
he was in the squad.
He was in the squad, and again, that's
the thing that swayed it for me was he's an EPS and he was going to go. Like, you're not spending 150 grand a year on somebody, and then
I think that's it. The central contract stuff. So it was kind of safe money. If you were picking in, you'd look at something like that and bring them in. Coolio. So we chat through some caps, chat through some that. Overall thoughts on this, Chris? This team, when you saw it, just overall thoughts. Has Borthwick got a sort of clear plan with this?
Broadly happy. Like the stuff that I think. So like if Tom Willis hadn't gone in, I think there'd have been riots. Like So like that's what people were demanding. He's in. Ted Hill, he's in.
Akin to like the Willis stats is kind of
it's outrageous.
Like Henry Slade, you cannot get like almost like Premiership Player of the Year,
and then knock it,
and then sort of not even be in the sort of running. And I think the first 10 weeks of this Premiership season, I mean, our fantasy stats will tell you it is he's destroying,
torn it apart. Yeah, he is absolutely like. He is breaking the mold of what an 8 can be, right? Like he is really, he's a big unit. He's 125 kegs. He's like, but he's got to turn up. He's got some pace. He's industrious.
He finds himself doing the right thing, like in the right place at the right time and doing the right thing.
And he's just, I think it's because he's everywhere. Like, and he does that. He can play the role that Billy played in his prime when it was like big carrier, just run him into the line, and you're gonna need you're gonna stop him because he's just running into the line, but you're gonna need 2 to 3 people to stop him. Which
and I'm still gonna fall that side of the gain line, not that side.
And then you've got 3 defenders that you've had to draw in to stop him, which now means that I've got Slight Home on the wing and is going to leg it up and in a very simplistic world. But anyway, he's in, so that's good. Ted Hill, I think, definitely deserved a chance.
Yeah.
He was... I think he offers... I said in my blog, like, he could be the next Courtney Laws. He could be the replacement for Courtney Laws, which is about as high a compliment as I can give to somebody.
It's not a bad thing for somebody to say about you.
He's got the athletic profile in the sense of he's like 6'5", 115 kegs, I think he is. And like I watched a Good Bad Rugby podcast, and they were talking about, Johnny May was talking about him. He's like, he is by far the best athlete available to England.
Yeah.
He's like got winger's pace.
Yeah, I can remember the point.
Massive. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. And you watch him play, and he's like, last season in the Prem, he topped the line-out steals. So decent line-out operator, which you needed a 6 now. Like, you can't really have a 6 that isn't jumping.
Yeah.
You need 3 jumpers in a side now. And he gives you a really good jumping option at 6, which also allows you to have a heavier lock. So you can have like a Emmanuel Miafu. Like, one of the reasons that people ignore about France, why France can have a Miafu and the Henry Tulangi and all these players who they have who are like 130, 140 kilogram locks, is because they also have Olivon and Roumont, and who are like 6'7", 6'8", and lean back rows that they can throw up in the lineup.
Launch up into the line, yeah.
Yeah. You can't do that if you you can't have them if you don't have back rows who can jump. So that's I had Arthur Clarke, who didn't get in, and the reason I had Arthur Clarke is because he's done really well in the Prem, like deceptively impressive, lots of graft. Although that could be because Gloucester used their locks seemingly a bit different than a lot of the clubs. They use them a lot more as carriers. So he gets some decent stats, but also he's got that big, weighty workhorse lock kind of thing that you need. You almost need a backup to Martin in, which I don't think we have at the minute. The only thing I was slightly disappointed, but I can see why, is in the centres. I think we still lack. I don't think Ollie Lawrence is a 13. Sorry, I don't think Ollie Lawrence is a 12. I think Ollie Lawrence is a 13. He's not a Manu Tuolangi who you can just run into the line and he'll find a way through. Like, he'll just go over people.
Yeah.
He needs like a soft shoulder to get through. So I think you want him out on the wider spaces where there's a little bit more of a gap that he can break through rather than just running over bodies.
Do you think that's sort of the Oscar Baird sort of coming in?
He's good at that, but I think he's still a 13. I think I would have liked to see Max Ajomo. He's not huge, but he's got good running stats. He's got good carrying stats. He's quite smooth in his hands. Like, he's got really nice ball player. Kind of close to like Tuipulotu, or what's his name, Ben Thomas for Wales. Like, can carry, but he's a bit of an all-rounder.
But also can.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other bit I was looking at, because between sort of, I mean, like, looking at that sort of 13, and all right, sort of Elliot Daly's there as the ultimate sort of bench man to cover anything from 13.
Can cover 10 in a pinch.
Then you've got sort of Dingwall, Baird, and like you say, like Lawrence 13, Henry Slade sort of 13. I was just like, that's a
lot of 13.
That's a lot of 13s on a pitch. And I was kind of sat there and was like, all right, you haven't got sort of out and out, but you've got a lot of players there. And I mean, even sort of Tommy Freeman at a pinch and Dingwall and players that, I mean, it's also like looking at World Cup and looking at players and having the ability to have that, like Elliot Daly. And I must have said about that, the British Lions tour, I was like, despise Daly, but I completely understand why they picked him. Because you need, again, in it, the same as like World Cups and everything, you need to be able to play that sort of second, third position. Like, if
someone goes down,
if someone goes injured, I've got somebody in camp
who can play any of those positions at high level. Like,
Yeah.
like he is equally competent at fullback, wing, centre. Yeah, like
yeah, and it does seem that actually when I was look, especially at the sort of backs, you have got a good number of people that do play, all right, Prem sort of level, but do play at like multiple positions.
yeah. There's a lot of versatility in there. Like even Faye Waboso at a push can play centre.
So
Like
he sort of
Furbank,
brought
I
him
know
up,
they feel injured,
obviously.
but like Furbank can play 10,
Yeah,
which is why,
into
and I
that.
think that's one of the reasons that he gets in is because like having Furbank, and this is one of the things I was looking at because I like the 6-2 split, but to have a 6-2, you don't really want to have a 10 on the bench. So you need to have someone who can cover 10 on the pitch, which is what Furbank gives
At a
you.
push, yeah.
Furbank can do that for you. So actually, like I think Furbank is one of the keys to opening up the 6-2 split, and Daly gives you that, like because Daly
Yeah.
in a pinch can cover 10 if he needs to.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
good.
think Daly makes it into the match day 23, surprisingly enough. And I was talking to someone online about this. I was like, actually, like I'm always so I think in England, I don't know if it's the same in Wales amongst Welsh fans or other nations, but like we're almost like cursed by our depth in a
Is it?
sense of we are very drawn to the shiny new thing as
Okay. Yeah.
opposed to the actual like this guy is quality
Yeah,
and has
I've just
been
bought
quality.
this.
Yeah,
I've just bought this, and I know that's just come out. Like, but I've bought this and I've been wearing it and I've tested it, and actually
and I
it's
know
really
it
good.
works. Yeah,
Oh, but see the new thing. Yeah,
yeah, and I think we're guilty. Like England fans are guilty of that a lot, and I think I'm probably guilty as well because people like right off Daly. I'm like, he's not old. Like he's like, how old is Elliot Daly?
but
He's
then I think that's why, and it's probably you brought it up. It's probably why like Steve Borthwick gets quite a bit of like Steve Borwick gets quite a bit of shit online because he's like, no, like I picked a team that works. Like I picked the
wins.
teams
Yeah,
that I know that sort of like comes in, and I go, like, all right, it wasn't the sort of the best sort of Six Nations performance last year, but you still won 3.
yeah.
Like and that's like in a post World Cup year where God knows anything happens. Um, yeah, I don't think it's in there. But let's
I think
so go on. You were going to summarise me.
no. I think like overall, really good squad. I think Underhill, if Underhill is fit, he comes straight back in. I don't know who he removes.
So the next bit I was going to move on to is sort of the not the omissions list yet, but I was like injuries. We mentioned sort of
Okay.
Boso, we mentioned Furbank. So sort of injury wise, is there anyone sort of on the injury list? So not just people have been sort of omitted, but anyone on that injury list that you see one if coming back fit sort of come straight into this squad.
Boso, Underhill. Who else is on there? See that?
Furbank was on there.
No, I don't think Furbank necessarily comes straight back.
No?
He is on it, but I don't think Furbank necessarily comes straight into the team. I think
Again, it's who do you lose for him? I guess is the
well, you like he'll go into the squad 100%. He goes straight into the squad. He's another EPS player, like he goes straight in, but he doesn't necessarily go straight back into the starting team kind of thing. Like who is in terms of who's the biggest loss? Because I think the new law changes in terms of the catcher
yeah.
actually favor Freddie Stewart, like in the fact like he's a catching,
Clean
and he
catches air. Yeah,
because he also because of his size he doesn't give up ground. Like if he gets caught isolated in the backfield, which you do now,
yeah.
because you can't protect them. Like he'll stand and hold and fight long enough because of his size to allow your back row to get back there and
People
actually
take
protect the
get
ball.
back and get round. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that
like
makes
he. So I think he gives
good
you
sense.
that. Furbank gives you a bit more of a playmaker, but Stewart, like I put a thing on X about it. When Leicester was playing, who did they play in the Champions Cup this weekend? I forget who it was that they beat. I want to say Ulster, but I don't know if it was. But anyway, whoever it was they beat. And I was watching, I was like, actually, Like, has Freddie been working on his attacking stuff? Because like he's distributing, he's cutting some really nice lines. He's like, I was like, actually, like he's not on the level of Furbank in that respect yet, but like he's definitely trying to add that to his game.
Doing something.
So I'm not sure those two. That's a really interesting competition between the two, because it's two quite distinct, like two very good players, but quite distinct styles of player. So
and
I think that can.
And it does. You are almost at the point where Borthwick picks someone like that. I wouldn't say it sort of gives away your sort of game plan, but you can, and you can look at
You
teams.
know what's coming, yeah.
You know what's coming. If I pick this guy, and this guy, you're like, okay, this is what's happening. I do get they're quite different players. So moving on wise from sort of thoughts, feelings, coming in with this, is there anyone omissions wise? Is there anyone that you were really surprised? So like genuinely surprised, not your own sort of thoughts. Anyone that you're surprised not to see in that team?
Personally, no. I know a lot of people are really upset about Ben Spencer not making the squad, and if I'm honest, I probably would have taken Spencer over Randall.
Randall, yeah.
I just don't necessarily think Randall makes the right decisions at test level.
Yeah.
And his kicking isn't quite there.
It was a really interesting sort of 9 bit that I looked, because Alex Mitchell coming back has been playing really well in the Prem.
Guaranteed starter. He's your starting 9.
JVP, all right, sort of long time injury, but sort of like coming straight back in. And you've got sort of Randall as well. And I was kind of like, and with the likes of, when you are omitting like Ben Spencer, I was like, it's not a terrible position to be in, to have 3 9s in your team, and you're still omitting the players at the sort of level of Ben Spencer.
Will Porter, Rafi Quirk.
Rafi Quirk.
All of these, I actually think Rafi Quirk will make a really big, strong run for that 9 jersey in the not too distant future if he can stay injury clear. The only reason I think he's not in that squad is because hasn't played enough rugby, and I think that's probably the same reason Max Jomo isn't. Those are 2 that I'm disappointed about, but I can see why they didn't get there. But Spencer, I can see why people are disappointed. But I also think if I think back to the autumn, I'm like, let's go through the highlights in my head. Like, what did Spencer do? I can think of like 2 moments maybe.
Yeah.
I'm like, he didn't mess anything up, but he also didn't.
Yeah, and that's why I was a bit. So I wasn't sort of heavily, but it's like he's a
very high quality 9.
He's a Borthwick player, like you said, sort of maybe like the Jamie George bit, like a team that just does the right thing. Like, I don't need everybody to set the world on fire. I need you all not to make mistakes. And I was and I always thought that actually Ben Spencer fitted sort of Borthwicks, like actually sort of like the way he was going.
I know, but you've also got players who do set the world on fire and also don't make mistakes.
And do it quite regularly.
So like Mitchell, I can't think of a 9 in the Premiership. To be fair, shy of maybe Thomas Williams and Jameson Gibson Park and DuPont. I can't think of a 9 in the world that would like straight unseat Mitchell. And even those ones, it's like DuPont is a guaranteed. Anyone would take DuPont. Let's omit him from the conversation. But anyone else, like, I'm just hoping DuPont like finds a English grandparent somewhere and like
waits a couple of years and then comes back.
Figures out he was born in Wiltshire and that's what
he's got 2 years to the World Cup. So if you're going to change nations now,
but yeah, Mitchell is certainly one of the top 9s, and he is the English starting 9 without question. Like, there's no one there even close yet. but then it's that second shirt, and I think it's, like I say, I think Rafi Quirk will eventually come along and take it. But I think in the meantime, I would have gone with Will Porter personally. I think Will Porter at Harlequins is a nice little player.
I think JVP, like, I think like, had his time. It's not that he did sort of badly, and no one likes to see sort of anyone get injured. It's just I've always seen him as quite a similar player to Mitchell. I don't know if that's just sort of me, but I've like the little snipes, the little sort of the running bits there. I've always seen him as quite similar. Not this, but quite similar. And I always thought that if you've, I suppose the problem is we spent years watching England have their absolute finishers.
Yeah.
Like nines, and you knew
on comes Danny Kerr.
We're up 10 points. Like here comes Danny Kerr on the park to absolutely close out the last sort of 10 minutes.
Ben Youngs, or
exactly. And you had Youngs and Kerr for a year, and they were just like absolute. No matter what you did, they were on for the last sort of 10, 15 minutes, close it out. So it's really interesting that I don't see that there. I don't see that there is, and again, it goes back to like the Ben Spencer. Like, I just need like that last 10 minutes when there's going to be a lot of pressure and there's going to be a lot of this and there's going to be, and it's actually just to settle. Just
I think the genuine issue is like there is a notable drop off in quality, almost no matter who you pick at the moment, between Mitchell and the next one. Like it is a noticeable.
Yeah, like, I'm not just.
I'm now like Alex Mitchell comes off, I'm worried.
Yeah.
Like I'm more nervous now because like I think Mitchell, I genuinely didn't rate Mitchell before he went into the World Cup, and I think his kicking game came along leaps and bounds at the World Cup to where it became like what went from a weakness in his game to a strength.
Yeah.
And so I think he's done really well. And now I think he's one of England's most important players. I just think I don't know who that secondary 9 is going to be. For me, the battle really is between Will Porter and Rafi Quirk. JVP would have to up his game a bit. I think English memories are quite short. JVP is actually a high quality 9, and they forget him playing against Australia, where he came on, scored a try within like 2 minutes because he just snipes, and he's got turn of pace, and he's a powerful runner, and he's a more conservative choice, more akin to your Ben Youngs. Like he's strong in the box kick. He's not afraid to use that weapon that he's got. Like all that kind of stuff. He takes a second to actually think about what he's doing as opposed to just running in and flinging it out, which is what I know people like to see. So that is kind of one element to his game, I suppose. But for me, the battle between your 9s really comes down to Mitchell, eventually Rafi Quirk, Will Porter, and JVP. I think Randall will eventually, in my opinion, he could come along. Like maybe they do the same thing with Randall they did with Mitchell, right? And he goes from this electric little 9 to like a sensible game manager and
give him a bit of time and see what he learns.
And maybe he does. I don't know, and I hope he does because he's like when he's firing, he's electric.
Yeah,
he's so quick.
Yeah,
he's at every breakdown. He snipes like a.
But that goes along with, I think, very much the sort of the way Bears are playing sort of mentality, and it's almost like you need the team to be playing to get the most out of that.
Yeah,
you need them to be absolutely sort of hammering it.
But some weird inclusions in the team. You had, I think, I'm surprised Dom Brandt's still in. I think.
And this goes into, I was sort of the next question I was going to go in and sort of talk about.
Sorry, stealing your sandwiches.
Almost. Yeah, no, I was just going to go in. The next bit was sort of, I was about to say, I was going to ask about sort of weaknesses. We looked at the sort of the Welsh team yesterday, and we sort of drew questions about front row and sort of worried about sort of the not only the starting what we think we'll be starting, but actually just the front row in general. Sort of looking at this team, I'm actually struggling to sort of pick out a weakness. We've mentioned about the sort of 12, 13, but I'm struggling to pick out an area where
Your centres, I
absolutely-
think, if it was me looking at it, I think your secondary 9, that's a problem, as we just talked about. So I don't think we
yeah,
have a settled secondary
that's,
scrum half.
that finisher 9, yeah.
I don't think we have that. I think your centre partnership is still very much up for grabs, but every game, and this is where I'm thinking, do I think Henry Slade and Ollie Lawrence are that like Will Greenwood, Mike Tyndall kind of pairing where it's like they just play together, they just work,
We've got a
just
12 doing 12 things. I've got a 13 doing 13 things.
and
And
they
they're
just
both doing them very well.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool, happy, mega. That's my settled partnership. I don't think we're there, which makes me think, and that's not a like slight on either Ollie Lawrence or Henry Slade. I think they're both very high quality players. I just think they're not the settled partnership, and every game you play them is one less game.
But somebody else
That,
is getting the opportunity.
yeah, and I think there's other 12s that are coming through, and we need to hurry that process up, like hurry that along. So I think Max Ajomo's might be the answer. You can buy in club partnerships, right? Because they play together at Bath. Buy that in, let them play together, and that could work together quite well. It did work really well against Claremont on the weekend. So that would be my thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And it depends on the team he selects, right? Like, I think Don Brandt is an excellent Premiership player.
I was going to leave your back row till last because it's one of the first things I look at because it is like the biggest questionable.
The most
You've got
important.
so many people raising their
It's the
hand in that
foundations upon
Premiership.
which you build your team, right? Your 9, your 10, your back row, like
your back row. And I was looking through sort of just the Currys, like
yeah, that's mental.
Ben Tom Curry, like Ben Earl, who like hasn't been slouching this season, and like in fantasy points is still like there doing.
Yeah.
And then I was just looking through and that whole back row, like you mentioned about sort of Ted Hill coming in, Chandler Cunningham South, I was like that, and like without even mentioning the people that have like been omitted to come in.
Sam Underhill.
It's just I was kind of thinking that is a back row, like most countries would turn over backwards for.
Yeah, no, I think it depends who you pick, because I know lots of people like wanting to play Ollie Chesham at 6. I'm not a massive fan of Chesham at 6.
And not when you've got the likes of like Chandler Cunningham South to be running around at 6.
I think Chandler Cunningham South is, at the moment, is a finisher. Like, he's someone you want coming off the bench. He doesn't have necessarily the gas or the engine to do a full 80. But bring him on 20 minutes to go and be like, what I want you to do is go and cause absolute havoc.
See all these tired people, go bang them.
Yeah, go smash the living bejesus out of them and just have fun. Like, I want you to go mental. And I think he'd do a really good job in that. Ben and Tom Curry, like, probably not in their best vein of form, but even so, like, they're still outstanding players. Like, I was looking up Tom Curry when I was doing the blog, and I was like, he's got 50 some odd caps, like, probably one of the best, widely regarded as one of the best back rowers in the world. Like, he's 26.
Yeah, I can remember like one of the first England games when it was like Curry and Underhill hit the scene, and I was like, oh damn, like
yeah,
oh okay, yeah, just like
yeah.
And then sort of Ben Curry's sort of form.
How nice is it when your best player has a genetically identical?
There's nothing worse. I'm like, one day I'm like, they're just going to be like, we've named Tom in the team, but Ben's playing. Oh, just forget about it. We're not reprinting like the match day program. There is that bit of like, imagine. I just imagine like 55, 60 minutes against like battling against Tom Curry. And they're like, right, they're taking Tom Curry off. And you think, thank God. Like being replaced by
Ben Curry.
Ben Curry. And you're like,
just tag teams, he goes off. He's like, yeah, cool.
Just like absolutely empty the tank.
And Ben Curry got some stick for his like work off the bench. I'm like, the guy has an absolute engine. Like, did you see the chase back he did in the Prem? I forget who he was playing. I think it might have been Bristol or something like that. He like there was their winger. Yeah, it was Bristol. Like Noah Hewitt, I think, and he beat him. Like Ben Curry outran him after having turned, like caught him, overtook him, and got the ball. I was like, that's mad. That's outrageous pace for a back rower. So yeah, he's really quality. I don't even know if I'd start Tom Ben Curry. I think my back row I would probably go Ted Hill, Tom Willis, and Ben Earl, and then I'd have a 6-2
with Ben Earl at 7.
Yeah, because I saw a thing by Charlie Morgan. He was talking about. He's like, I like what Saracens do, where depending on the scrum and where it is and what they want to do, they will either have Ben Earl or Tom Willis at the base.
Yeah.
Because like Ben Earl, if you're in a little bit of space, if you're in if it's a nice middle of the park scrum, you're going to attack from.
You've got some
they'll
freedom.
have Ben Earl at the base, and he'll dynamically explode off the base. If it's crunch time and it's a defensive scrum on our own, like within our own 22, Tom Willis gets on the base.
Yeah.
And he like bolsters that scrum, and like there was one where he was like the scrum was actually like creaking, but it's just, and that's where having actually a specialist 8 really comes in handy, because how he manages the ball at the base, knowing when to pick it up, go, and like to save it, like that makes a huge difference. So I think that's the back row I'd go with, and then I'd probably have Chandler Cunningham South and one of the Currys coming off the bench
as a finishers.
Yeah, just be like, have some of this for 20 minutes. There you go. Like, you're all tired, battered, bruised. You've been playing against Tom Willis and trying to tackle him for 60 minutes. Here you go, kids. And then I'd probably have Chesham on the bench as well.
The playground.
Yeah, like, and then let Chesham come on and be like, there you go. You can, because at that you can either fully replace your back row and be like, here you go, there's a full another set of them now, or
and so
you can replace a lot.
We mentioned it earlier, just having the ability to quite happily put sort of Ben Earl at 7-8, having quite happily have sort of Chesham in to cover what is the second row.
Lock.
He can do a decent job at back row, and so again, it all comes down to this, and I think that's the big thing when I look at that England team. Is like, even if you told me that the starting 15, there's still a good chance that I don't put somebody in the right position. If you turn around and went, yeah, my 15 is these people, like it would still be a little bit of a, is he playing? Is he at 7? Who's at 7 now? Who's at 8? Sort of, because you've got that many people that actually the combinations within
you can throw around,
that you lose. And we were saying before, like different styles, same level. Like you are very, very good. You are very, very good. But I want this from you. I want this from you. And it's like you could take the same 15 players and go crazy different ways with it.
Yeah, you could play completely different games. Be like, so you could play a Chesham, you could play a Tom Willis, and you could play a Tom Curry off the base. Your locks, you could go really dynamic, put Alex Coles in, like lightweight, dynamic, jumping lock. Like your backs, it's mental. You put Marcus Smith in, 2 very different high quality 10s.
I wait for the day where you just go like full beast mode, and you just go and pick like Don Brandt, like
as a centre,
Willis, like Don Brandt, Willis, and Ben Earl. I'm just like, what the, like no one wants to, like heavy set, bad weather. Right, come here, you three, and beast it.
Yeah, that's genuinely why I think that's the only reason I think Don Brandt doesn't necessarily get selected in the starting now, is because like he struggles to carry in traffic, like he can't. Where Tom Willis is that's where he wants to, like he's in it.
Yeah.
Don Brandt needs to find a seam, and there are just less seams at test level. I think that's probably why he hasn't shone. It's because he hasn't found, like he's really good at finding little itty bitty gaps to exploit that he can open up. And those just don't exist when you get to test level. That's probably why he struggles. But like say, really high caliber player, and you could make a pretty immense 23 out of that squad. So I'm fairly happy.
No, that's not terrible.
But now you have to make it work together.
Yeah, before anybody goes mental. So just quickly, I'm going to give you carte blanche over that team, and I'm going to let you throw out one back and one forward, and bring a back and a forward in. So that's what I'm gonna let you do. So which back and forward would you get rid of, and which back and forward you bring into that? Like I was gonna have a bet on Sale players before you said anything, but I'll do it secretly in my mind.
No, I actually think Sale have got exactly who they should have had in, has gone in. I'm quite happy with that. I think from the forwards, I would get rid of Alex Dombrandt.
Yeah.
Rather meanly. I think you've got enough cover with 8 with Willis and Earl. And I would bring in, if I could, I'd bring in Jack Willis from Toulouse, but I can't. So
no one
I
can
would,
do that.
Yeah, I would bring in. It's between 3: Pollock, Pearson, or Jack Kenningham from Harlequins. Not really well known, not super flashy, but he's a fetcher. I think England, the only thing that is missing from that is an elite level jackal threat. Wales has Tommy Raffel. Scotland has Darge. France has
poachers, absolute poachers.
Yeah, we need one of those.
When you just want to disrupt someone's ruck speed, you need a poacher.
Yeah, and we don't have one yet. So I think Kenningham could do that job, and he covers 6 and 7, which is really good. So that'd be my forward, and then in the backs, I think I'm really happy with the back. Like, I got the back 3 spot on. He picked exactly what I would pick. He's obviously been reading the blog. I think I would go. Oh, it's between a centre and a 9. I'm going to go centre. I would bring in Max Ajomo, and I would remove Oscar Beard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the new cap, Oscar Beard.
Oscar Beard's a hugely quality player, massive quality player, and for a relatively small kid, is one of the most destructive carriers I've seen, which is probably why he doesn't play on the wing. But he's got an outrageous turn of pace as well, really, really quality. But that does mean he's sometimes prone to kind of tuck it up the jumper and go. But that'll come with. But I think Max Ajomo is the all-round 12 that you probably need, and I would probably play Max Ajomo to start.
In at 12.
In at 12, while launch at 13. And this is a really big shout. This is why I think people might get upset when he releases the starting 15. Because, what do you do now, right? You're playing Ireland. You look at your run of games. You've got Ireland, France, Scotland,
then Italy.
and then I think Italy, Wales, right? So, yeah, you can give the new caps a run of games against Wales and Italy.
And to be fair, you've got, let's be honest, when you look at sort of the standard and quality of the teams at the moment, you've got a beautiful little, Ireland, France, all the way to the end. So you've got a nice little sort of downhill slope.
But do you now throw in Tom Willis? That's a throw him in against Ireland in Dublin. That's about as deep gets.
Yeah, but yeah, that's simple. That's simple swim. But again, like you said, with the quality that you've got on that bench, you do a Razzie. I'm gonna bench you 20 minutes in. I'm gonna start you, and I'm gonna give you this opportunity. But
if you look like you're starting to struggle,
if at 25 minutes you ain't doing it, on you go, Curry. I've lost nothing. There's some interesting choices. Right, we'll probably try to wrap it up. So final final thoughts on this squad and looking. I don't want to put you on the spot, but with this squad that you've got sat in front of you and the Six Nations, where are we looking position wise?
I think second. Second can be done. Second is a reasonable aspiration target for that team. I think first is probably too much. I actually think France are probably the form team to take it at the minute. I know they're back now after their little World Cup hangover, and Ireland seems to be struggling. I think second. If we get second, I think most England fans, you can't really complain at that. Like, gotta beat Scotland. Absolutely must beat Scotland, if only because I'm sick of hearing about the Calcutta Cup.
Calcutta Cup, yeah.
Must beat Wales, must beat Italy, and must beat one of France or Ireland.
And I think the position that you're in,
not must beat, but should.
And Borthwick's not nowhere near under sort of similar amounts of pressure as sort of Gatland last year and dreaded wooden spoon.
But there is some there.
But some sort of progression. So last year, sort of third in the table, sort of now, like we talked about it on sort of podcasts before. So it's not, now it shouldn't be a shot. Like, I should be beating these people, and now I need to go that, actually, it's like we lost to them and we've ended up here. Now I should be looking at toppling Ireland, France. I should be looking at taking a scalp. I need to start taking those scalps.
And then once we're there, then you start putting teams away, right? Then you start
you're in contention. That next Six Nations sort of Lions, then the Six Nations, then sort of coming into World Cup time. Like, you want to be in a position by then to be like, I'm not just trying to get a win against one of them. Like, people are now looking at me as a favourite. People are now looking at me in Ireland and goes, I have no idea who takes this.
Yeah, Ireland are worried. Like, Ireland. You want it to be like, you expect England to win when they're at home. You expect Ireland to win when they're at home. That's kind of where you want to be sitting. But I don't know if I said to you, like, when I was looking at it, I was like, this team seemed to go through a cycle, and it's about now that England needs to find themselves in a cycle where, like, you look at Ireland, first couple of years, they struggled when Andy Farrell came in, and then they won a Six Nations. Like, that seemed to, like, just like bad, won a Six Nations. And I was like, and then all of a sudden it's like, now they're amazing.
Yeah.
And it seems to go like that. Like, South Africa, bad, won a World Cup.
I think that's generally why Gatland threw a grenade last year, because he's just trying to reset the bad cycle.
But I don't know why. It'd be really interesting if anyone has any ideas as to why that, like, might be the case. But yeah, you look through these teams. The only one that breaks that mold is New Zealand, because they're just always good, epic, good. Like,
never.
Yeah, but
no, yeah. I genuinely, this England team, and it's bad to say for sort of a Welshman, I'm excited. Like, there is a lot there. As a sort of just somebody who just wants to watch some good rugby, there is so many different sort of combinations and style of rugby hidden in that squad somewhere that it excites me. Some squads I can look and read, and I know exactly how you're going to play, sort of good or bad. And I think there's so much variety and depth just in that squad that actually I'm excited to see what Steve Borthwick comes up with in terms of gameplay, strategy. It's going to be that is an interesting England team.
Yeah, absolutely. I genuinely am really excited. You know, that's what I'm really excited for. You've got the Six Nations docuseries coming out again, the Netflix one.
Apparently had a bit more access this time.
Apparently loads more access. So yeah, lots to look forward to over the next few weeks. Anyway, my wife is not going to be grateful when it's just rugby, but it's
and
I will be happy.
Weekend spent doing what we should be doing, which is watching rugby and paying for it during the week. So that's a perfect thing to end on. So thank you very much, Chris, for your thoughts on the England team you've just gone through. Thanks for watching. Follow us on our socials, and we'll speak to you soon.